customer wants solar, they can do that after the build.
Yeah.
But that's typically could be a bigger barrier for that customer to put solar on, because they're already getting a mortgage, they're putting all of their costs together, and they go to the bank and say, we want $300,000 build cost, and that includes solar. But trying to do it after, sometimes, once you move in, you know how it is, you got to start putting your furnishings in, landscaping, solar slowly drops down the priority list, but it should be at the top.
Welcome to Building Ideas, the Master Builders SA podcast. I'm your host, CEO Will Frogley. Join me as I speak with some characters from South Australia's building industry.
A lot has changed in 40 years, but one thing hasn't: hard work. It's what our members do, and it's what we do for them. Cbus Super, making hard work pay off since 1984.
Today on Building Ideas, we're going to talk all things solar, and joining us today is none other than Venergy CEO Matt Wilkins. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Will.
So you've been in the solar industry, how long? About 10 years now, I'm guessing?
Longer.
Longer than that.
So just about 15 days ago, we celebrated our 15th anniversary in September. So,
and how old are you? Yes, you're a young pup, aren't you?
35.
35.
Yeah.
So you started the company when you were 20. Oh, you started your previous employer before you started your own business when you were 20?
Yeah. So I did my apprenticeship, went through, and then essentially joined the company and co-founded it. It's been a really long journey, and we've ridden all the peaks and the troughs, and 15 years. There's probably only a couple others in South Australia that have been around since 2009 and doing it probably, we're probably one of the only ones that are doing it at high volume. We're pretty proud of that.
As you should be. Now, the cost of living, the cost of doing business, they're everywhere at the moment. Everyone's feeling it. I guess I'd like to ask you about two different areas, the cost to a consumer and the cost of construction or doing business. Now, what are your tips to those different segments of the market about the opportunities that solar can present to make some savings?
Well, what's common across both segments is it's the only asset that pays for itself, right? So if you're looking, whether you're a homeowner trying to, you're stuck in maybe that cost of living crisis, there's options out there available to get solar. There's no cost solar options. There's green loan solar options. There's all these different instruments out there now because solar's so mainstream. It's reliable. It's bankable. So there's ways to put it on your home and start, rather than paying the electricity company, start putting it into that asset. And after, say, 5 years, the asset's yours and you're receiving all those benefits. It's really a no-brainer. We say that a lot in our industry. It's a no-brainer, but it really is. And then on the business side, it's the same thing. It's another commercial asset similar to, any other asset that you might put in your business to improve operations. Solar improves the operational cost of your business, and it can do so in a very, very big way. So I'm not sure why a lot of other businesses still aren't looking at it. But yeah, there's actually a grant out at the moment as well, where the Office of Small Businesses recognizing how much impact solar can have, and are saying, well, if you invest in it, we'll also match some contribution to that as well.
Yeah, shout out to Andrew Michaels, the Minister for Small Business, Small and Family Business. That's a great initiative that was brought in, I think, in this year's state budget. Definitely a lot of businesses out there are feeling the heat at the moment, and power's a massive overhead for a lot of them, isn't it?
Well, I think probably second to your labour cost, it's the next biggest line item, on your costs. And there's ways to reduce that. And there's a lot of businesses that just keep paying their power bill every month or every quarter. Sometimes they think the barrier might be that they're a leasee, a tenant. That still doesn't matter. There's still ways to put it on. And there's actually no cost ways to do it as well. Power purchase agreements become popular again as the power prices have skyrocketed, almost tripled for some businesses, and there's ways to put it on. We got an example now. We're working with a customer who's looking at putting a PPA on And with putting no money down, so no financial investment for them, no ongoing expenses, is going to save close to $50,000 a year on their electricity cost by simply just putting solar on and having a power purchase agreement. No money down, no ongoing costs, no.
You talk about a no-brainer. There's a classic example right there, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we've been dealing with that customer now for about 3-4 months. It's a long sales cycle, but you feel like, sometimes saying, are we looking at the same number set here? Because this is jumping out at me. I'm not sure why it's not for you either. It's time to move forward because you could have already saved. The opportunity loss there is, each month you could be saving quite a lot.
My understanding is, and this grant is definitely something we have promoted to the Master Builders SA membership. My understanding is that the uptake's been very high, and I think it closes end of November.
Yeah.
Is my recollection.
Yeah, 29th November.
29th of November.
Yeah. And it's actually open for a range of different, I'd say, improvements to your business. So it's not just isolated to solar, although we're trying to capture our fair share of people looking to invest in solar. But you might already have solar. You can add a battery to it. You might want to update that 20-year-old air conditioner to something newer and more efficient. Air compressors and a whole range of things. There's a list of eligibility on the website, and I'd absolutely encourage any business to look on there and, maybe there's been that air conditioner or adding a battery or solar that's been on their wish list for a while. You can receive up to $50,000 in matched funding. So if you spend up to 100, you get 50 back. You can spend 30,000, get 15 back. It's probably been one of the best incentives that the government's put out in a really long time.
Yeah, it's a fantastic incentive, no doubt about it. And from a consumer perspective, full disclosure to everyone, I've actually used Venergy myself at my place, and I certainly see the great savings every time my power bill comes in. So it was a great experience with Venergy. Matt slipped me some cash to give a positive comment there. No, I'm just kidding, not really. But in all
seriousness, to you later, mate.
In all seriousness, I see the benefits every time I get my own power bill.
Well, on that though, I think we earned your sale. I think you went through your own evaluation process, and
I like to do my due diligence, Matt.
Yeah, you sure do, and you made us work for it. But delighted that we won it on our own merits, and we talk about it quite regularly. And every now and then you get your bill and send me a photo, and it's it feels good, right?
Definitely,
and that's why I like doing what I'm doing. It's super rewarding, helping families and helping business owners as well. It's a good news story. It gives you those warm fuzzies, right?
Yeah. On something you're probably less enthusiastic about, there's a lot of talk from the federal opposition at the moment around going nuclear. What would that mean to the renewable energy renewable industry, which has been very strong in South Australia in particular, hasn't it?
Has. I mean, there's a lot of talk about it, and I think we're really a long way from it. I mean, we don't have really any industry to support it, but I am an advocate for, the state and the country. And I think nuclear does potentially have a role to play, and I'm not against it, and it probably would hurt our industry. But the good thing is, and this is what makes Venergy and myself different to a lot of other people, I'm a qualified electrician.
Yeah, you are.
I can always go off and do something else. I'm not a salesperson or someone that's, was pushing trolleys before and then thought solar seems like a high growth industry. I wonder if I could start selling solar with not much background. They're probably the people that would be more worried about losing the industry. But for me, we do a range of different services and offer different products at Venergy, and, my future is in the electrical industry, not just solar.
Yeah, you're a wonderful example of where learning a building trade can take you, aren't you? As we always say through our Born to Build program, it's just the start of, and it opens up any number of doors.
Absolutely. Get your trade, see where it will take you.
Now, if I'm in the shoes of a builder,
sure.
What do you think are some of the missed opportunities out there when it comes to solar?
How long have we got, Will?
We've got quite a lot of time. Depends how good your content is.
Yeah, so there's a range of different opportunities there for builders, especially in the design and construct space. Generally, we see specifiers putting in a solar system probably more so just as the tick the box. right? There's ways that you can use solar, and I'll give a great example. Solar can help bring down your maximum demand in certain cases. So if you're looking at not to get too technical here with the electrical, but if you're looking at your table C2 and you're doing your maximum demand calculations and looking at your mechanical loads, an example is a childcare centre. Very predictable, 6 till 6 p.m. What you can do there is solar can be used to bridge a gap. So you might be just over your maximum demand requirements with SA Power Networks, and they say, lovely, we'll approve your supply, but you need to foot the bill for a $300,000 transformer. That can make or break the project in some cases, or increase the costs. So what you can do is you can actually put in solar, because it is a generator. It is an alternative power supply. It can bring that mechanical load down, and you could actually spend, say, $30,000 on a solar system. That might be all it takes. It might only need 10 amps or something like that. It might be just on that limit, and you can stick with the supply that you want. You don't need the transformer. You can run all the calculations. Engineers do this and the consultants. And, if you can satisfy SAPN, then, $30,000 versus $300,000, that's a pretty good opportunity if you ask me.
Yeah, dealing with SAPN can be an obstacle for a lot of our members. Any advice you could give in that area?
Always be nice.
Yeah.
Try and build a great relationship with SA Power Networks. They do have an enormous challenge in front of them. And I think for the most part, they are doing a really good job, especially, trying to manage all of the solar generation that's getting put onto the grid. But I know in the new connection space, builders are having a lot of challenges. The challenge for us sometimes is we can't actually get solar approved up until, very end in the build schedule. And that makes it hard because a builder's quite keen to get us there at a first fix stage while all the edge protection's on the roof and, save some costs and have some efficiencies, get us on the roof, put all the solar on, run all of our cables to our inverter station, and then we'll come back in 3 or 4 months and fit it off. That's a challenge when SA Power Networks won't actually provide an NMI number or, your X number, and we won't be able to get approval up until later in the project, which has some risks and some challenges there.
If I'm looking around South Australia, I see a lot of buildings with solar panels on them, but I also still see a lot that don't. There's still plenty of potential there, isn't there? But I do wonder, in a cost of living squeeze, perhaps it's the people that need the panels the most that don't have them. And I always find it interesting that, for example, it's compulsory to have a rainwater tank on a new build, but not solar panels. I would have thought the solar panels would benefit the consumer far greater over the long haul.
Yeah, comes back to the point I sort of said before. It's, people are ticking boxes. They're putting it on if they have to, but they should be putting it on in every situation. Every new home should be putting solar on. I think we're going to see that with the new NCC changes coming through with the energy efficiency rating. I think that'll boost up the numbers of solar. We'll see the consultants using solar as an instrument to satisfy, their different ratings probably in a bigger way than we've seen in the past. But for the most part, I think what we're seeing is a lot of builders probably seeing solar as another complexity to a build that they're already having challenges with trade shortages, material shortages, and they think the customer wants solar. They can do that after the build.
Yeah.
But that's typically could be a bigger barrier for that customer to put solar on because they're already getting a mortgage. They're putting all of their costs together, and they go to the bank and say, we want $300,000, build cost, and that includes solar. But trying to do it after, sometimes, once you move in, you know how it is. You got to start putting your furnishings in, landscaping. Solar slowly drops down the priority list, but it should be at the top, and it could be helping pay for all those things after a couple of years.
Now, I think it was you that told me this a while back, that it's actually generally the female clients that aren't keen on solar, or was it the other way around? Is the males more keen on it than the female?
Yeah,
was it the other way around?
It was, I think it's 50-50.
Yeah.
It's the household dynamics, and I'm sure you've got the same thing in your house. Maybe the wife wants a new couch or a new fridge, and you want a new garden shed. It's that constant battle between what are the priorities in the household, and we see lots of different examples of what's priorities in someone's house. But I always say, maybe the solar could help pay for those extra Gucci handbags or something.
That's what I'd say. If you go in with the saving on the solar first, and that will free up all the cash to buy all the extra stuff.
Absolutely. Solar and battery now can get rid of your bill altogether. I put it on a 5-year low interest finance plan, and you'll actually be cash flow positive in some cases. The savings from your electricity is more than the repayments for your solar and battery.
Mm-hmm.
So you're left over with money.
I know what I paid you I think it was about 4 years ago now when I engaged you to do my house. But I mean, what kind of range would a customer be looking at for solar panels these days?
Yeah, so
on a fairly typical residential build.
Yeah, so on a typical build, I'm a big advocate for bigger is better.
Yeah,
it gives you a lot of opportunities in the future, whether it's batteries, EV chargers, and that's probably another conversation for a whole nother time. But typically speaking, you're probably looking at somewhere between, say, $6,000 and $10,000. 6 being on the real smaller end, and then 10 starting to get up into the bigger range. And then when you add a battery, you are starting to look into that sort of $20,000 to $30,000 range. But that's then giving you a very complex energy system with some energy management. You might be adding EV to that. You can start to set your timers, and that's really where we're at now, and where the future is going is that every house should have solar and a battery. And when you've got excess solar, you're diverting it to your hot water system. You might turn on your air conditioner at 3 p.m. for a couple hours. It's all about generating and consuming your own electricity. It's not about sending it back to the grid anymore. There's still, people like my dad and his mates that talk about, the feed-in tariff. The feed-in tariff's finished. That was a great incentive to get the industry rolling. But the bigger and broader picture is that it's all about self-consumption.
Yeah. And for that system that you described, how many years would it take, do you think, for the consumer to start, to break even and start realising savings really on their power bills effectively?
Yeah, it all depends on their usage. So, maybe a 2-person home would use a lot less electricity, so they don't need a bigger system. But
my house seems to use a lot of electricity, Matt. Just saying.
Yeah.
For the kids I've got. And
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about a family. Then they're big users. They might buy a bigger system. If you look at, say, a $10,000 system that might return $1,000 a quarter, then, that's 10 quarters.
Yeah.
It's, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So it's not very long payback period.
In terms of the life of your home. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know what's the average person stay in their home for these days before they shift. Do you know that, Will?
Yeah, it's going down a lot. Yeah, we're seeing more movement.
Yeah.
But I think if, for example, you didn't have stamp duty, mobility across the housing market would be a lot easier for sure.
Yeah.
There'd be, wouldn't be such a hassle to downsize, for example.
Yeah. So we think it might be around 5 years or something like that. You can pay off a system well below 5 years. And I think it's now becoming something new home, buyers are looking for. If they're evaluating 3 fairly similar homes and sort of in the same geographical location, they're starting to say, well, this one has a pool, this one doesn't. It's now this one has a solar system, this one has a solar system and a battery. It's becoming appealing for a buyer, and it does add value to your home.
Australians live in very large houses by world standards, and obviously there's an impact on things like power bills as a result of that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yet another reason to make sure you get solar on your home.
Absolutely. And the cost of electricity is, one of the highest in the world as well.
It sure is. In fact, even for our membership, that's one of the biggest gripes is just the cost of the power. Cost of power is a huge drain on most businesses in South Australia, let alone, hospitality, et cetera, retail, et cetera, et cetera. What other tips would you have for someone in the building industry? Is there any opportunities in solar that are excellent opportunities and still widely underutilized that you haven't already covered?
I think mainly it comes into the what we spoke about before in using solar as an instrument to help you build a lower cost building, not looking at it as an expense.
Mm-hmm.
It can improve different ratings, whether you need a roof raising system, whether you might not buy that transformer or whatever it is, but also, you might want to talk to the end user of the property. I know there's a lot of, fund management out there developing and the end tenant and everything like that, but it can typically also, and we've looked at some calculations recently, actually improve the yield of the property and therefore improve the value, the overall value of the property, right? So if a developer's putting a childcare centre together or a gym or something like that, they might be able to negotiate a slightly higher rental yield, and therefore, the property all of a sudden becomes worth a little bit more. So that's an opportunity that's sometimes missed by a lot. And then also it's, I hate to say it, but doing the right thing. So you're putting someone into a building without having solar, you're putting them straight into a high operating cost position with their building. So you might have a really happy tenant with solar on there versus maybe not.
Yeah, it's a really big worry. I mean, you just have to look around the state and what's happened in recent times with iconic companies like Nippy's going under, citing power bills as probably the number one factor. It's pretty scary, isn't it? And I think you hate to see it, especially in a place like South Australia that's blessed by such amazing natural resources.
Absolutely. There was, just on TV last night, I think there was, something on there about a couple very well-known businesses in South Australia citing that electricity costs are crippling them. And it shouldn't really be the case at all. We're in beautiful sunshine.
Yeah.
We've got beautiful talent here in South Australia, great resources. My hope would be that maybe solar can be something that can help these businesses and industries thrive. We're fortunate that in some cases, when you look at doing business in South Australia versus other states, we've got other key indicators and metrics that show that we're actually more competitive.
Yeah.
But then we always get to the power price, and that always seems to, be a challenge. So if we could change that, and maybe solar's one part of the puzzle. There's a lot of other things that the state needs to do. But I'm just a really proud South Australian, really committed to building our business here. We're obviously doing a lot in Victoria and New South Wales, but really committed to, we want to build our head office here in South Australia, and I just want to see South Australia do really, really well.
Yeah, you almost sounded like a politician there, Matt, which brings me to my next question. You've decided to put your hand up to run for the Master SA Council of Management, which is effectively our board to represent the subcontractors. Tell us a bit about why you decided to do that.
Well, I think you sold it really well. So you gave me a heads up that the position was coming up, and thanks for recognising that you thought I might be able to add some value. And I looked into it and thought that I could really represent the sort of trade side of the Master Builder members really well. And I just always want to contribute. I'm in the fortunate position where our business is big enough now where I can dedicate some time to some other things other than running the business, which I know is really quite hard for some of these other businesses at the moment, and where they are in their life cycle. But for me, I'm fortunate. I've got the time. I think I've got the ability and some experience, and think that I could contribute well and be that voice for the trades of the Master Builders members.
Yeah, I think that's very important because there's about 2,000 subcontractor businesses who are part of the Master Builders Association in South Australia. It's a very large number, and it's important that subcontractors are strongly represented around the table. Yeah,
absolutely. I've probably spent, and we still are a subcontractor in a lot of cases, contracting to builders and other things, and sometimes we're doing work for other principals. And so we definitely see where there's opportunity, and we also see where there's challenges, and we also see where maybe subcontractors are getting taken advantage of a little bit. And, when you're working 12 hours a day whether it be putting up a frame on a house or putting solar up or plumbing or whatever it is, it's pretty hard to find the time to voice your concerns. And yeah, I hope that I can be that conduit between the trade, subcontract, and the board. And yeah, anyone, if I get elected, I'm hoping I'm on a bit of a campaign trail at the moment.
Yeah, I noticed. Very, very slick.
Yeah. So I hope the members, might value me as their representation. And yeah, I might, if I'm lucky enough, I'd think it would be a real honour.
Yeah, it's a great group, and the passion there for the industry and for South Australia is quite incredible to watch. And I think it's a good mix of elder statesmen and young up and comers, and I think that's what you want. You want the experience, and then you want people with some fresh ideas for the future.
Yeah, you got to have that balance. You don't want it to be an echo chamber. You want it to have a diverse group of people in there, as you said, experience and up and comers. So.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for Master Builders. So this is our 140th year, been around since 1884, and the membership's at an all-time high. It's around 3,000 businesses who are members of this MBA in South Australia, and that supports enabling us to do more and more with programs like Rise and Board to Build that we can give back to the industry. So it's how much we can do is really conditional on how much support we've got. So it's been great to see, and we're also going to be building a new headquarters on South Terrace next door to our adjacent site. We've had planning consent for that, so that's very exciting as well.
Yeah, congratulations. I know that's been in the works for a long time.
It has.
And great. I'm looking forward to seeing all the facilities for the new members.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, it's been great to have you on Building Ideas podcast. Sounds like, as always, you've got a lot going on, and definitely it's going to be exciting to see what happens in the years ahead. So thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks for joining me on Building Ideas. For more information on Master Builders or our guests, please visit our website at mbasa.com.au.